Well, it's 10 p.m. in Lagos, Nigeria. Welcome to News Central. I'm Adeshawa Josh. Our top stories tonight. Appeal Court orders fresh hearing in Kano Emirate dispute, overturns earlier decisions on Emir Sanusi Lamido and Ado Bayero. U.S. government said to repatriate to Nigeria $52.88 million in assets linked to former Petroleum Minister Diezani Alison-Madueke. And Trump sentenced in New York hush money case days before his second inauguration as President of the United States.
In business, Central Bank of Nigeria introduces new savings and investment options for Nigerians in diaspora.
And in sports, cage match between Tunde Onokoya and Vice President of the Nigeria Chess Federation ends in a stalemate. More details after the break.
We begin tonight with a ruling by the Court of Appeal in Abuja, which overturned the decisions of the Federal High Court and the Kano State High Court regarding the legal dispute between Sanusi Lamido II and Aminu Bayero over the Kano Emirate leadership tussle. The Kano High Court had earlier issued a restraining order against Emir Bayero and other former emirs, about 4 of them, while the Federal High Court nullified the state governor's decision to remove Bayero and replace him with Sanusi in the first place. Today's ruling by the appellate court says the Federal High Court lacks jurisdiction to intervene in Kano State chieftaincy matters and ruled that the state's High Court's decision lacked merit. And now, supporters of the deposed Emir of Kano, Ado Bayero, say that the recent appeal court judgment declaring that the Federal High Court in Abuja has no jurisdiction to entertain matters relating to the Kano Emirate tussle will be appealed. Alison-Madueke reports.
The case had split the Kano Emirates into 2 different factions among supposedly members of the same royal family. While one faction supported the deposed Emir, Ado Bayero, the other faction stood firmly behind the reinstated Emir, Mohammed Sanusi II. With the Federal High Court and the Kano State High Court delivering differing judgments on the matter, the case was then taken to the Court of Appeal in Abuja and judgment duly passed.
2 judgments in this case. The first one made by the Federal High Court in Kano, which they are of the view that the Federal High Court does not have the jurisdiction to entertain that case. The judge in his ruling said they should revert to the State High Court for retrial, and the other 2 judges disagree with him. That is the case for the Federal High Court. As the case for the State High Court, all what the State High Court has done, they have nullified all the decisions of that court and asked for a retrial of the case.
The judgment by the 3-member panel of justices, led by Mohammed Mustafa, was unanimous. But one of the supporters of the deposed Emir Ado Bayero told newsmen that the judgment will be appealed to the nation's apex court.
On the issue of the Federal High Court, we'll go to the Supreme Court. That is definitely.
The court has called for fresh hearing under a different justice of the State High Court to ensure that the matter is duly resolved in the eyes of the law. In Abuja for News Central, I am Alison-Madueke.
And now for more of this story, Jide Ologun, a constitutional lawyer, joins me right here in the studio. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm going to ask you first, what are the implications of the Abuja Appeal Court's ruling on the legal dispute between Ado Bayero and Mohammed Sanusi?
Thank you very much. The battles are still on because what the Court of Appeal has done is to put the matter on a straight course. In respect of the Federal High Court, Kano Division, the Appellate Court has come out to declare that the court lacked jurisdiction because if you look at Section 251 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, the exclusive jurisdiction of the Federal High Court is clearly stated out, talking about banking matters, monetary matters, and financial issues, and more of that, and not necessarily issue of chieftaincy. So that is the main reason for that. And when you say a court lacks jurisdiction, it means the court cannot interpret the law and come to decisions on matters related to chieftaincy title. And that action was declared as a shoddy action, And coming to the State High Court, the position of the appellate court is that the right of fair hearing was not duly given, as the litigants were not put on notice to come and present their matters. And it was Lord Hewart that said in 1924 that justice should not only be done, but clearly seemed to have been done. And this is the position of the honorable justices in the Court of Appeal that come. The courts are there to defend justice and promote justice. So a retrial has now been ordered. So that is starting afresh. And of course, you know that the highest court in the land is the Supreme Court. And that status has been bestowed on the Supreme Court since 1963, when it became the highest court in the land. Before then, you could appeal to the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council of the UK. So here we are right now. The court must obey the decision of the appellate court. So we cannot say that the battles are over right now. A retrial in respect of the State High Court, then the Federal High Court to step out of the matter.
Here quickly. What does the Nigerian Constitution say about the appointment of traditional rulers in states?
Absolutely. The appointment is subject to the chieftaincy committee that you have, and that's why in most of the states you have the Ministry of Chieftaincy Affairs that is presided over by a commissioner. And of course, under the Constitution, the governor will have to present the staff of office, and that played out clearly in Kano. So that is where it is. But the argument is that the House of Assembly in Kano that repealed the law in 2024 that brought about the deposition of Bayero and bringing in Sanusi as the 16th Emir of Kano, the argument in court was that due process was not followed. But under the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, if you look at Section 4, what Section 4 says is that the National Assembly shall make laws for the peace, orderliness, and good government in Nigeria. And basically, by extension, within that Section 4, the state houses of assembly have the power, constitutional power, to make laws for the peace, orderliness, and good government in Nigeria. So that constitutional power is there. But I think basically now it's a matter of procedures. And if you ask me, anyone is free to go to court. And that's why we have the judicial arm of the government to interpret the laws.
So where does that leave the case that went all the way to the Federal High Court?
That what?
At some point, this case was taken to the Federal High Court.
The litigants decided to go to the Federal High Court, coming under fundamental human rights. But basically, this is a chieftaincy affair, and that is what the appellate court has declared over, that the Federal High Court has no jurisdiction over chieftaincy affairs. And like I said earlier, the matter is still open. The affected party may proceed to the Supreme Court to give further interpretation, and that will become the final interpretation on the issues. But by and large...
Quickly before we go, so where does that leave this tussle? What are the next legal steps both are expected to take after this ruling? Quickly.
The tussle at this stage, there are two options. It's either you have a political solution where stakeholders come together and resolve it within the chieftaincy circle, or the matter goes all the way to the Supreme Court. And when the Supreme Court declares the final verdict, that stands in law. So those are, you have that judicial intervention or non-judicial intervention. So it's up to the stakeholders. And when I talk about the stakeholders, I'm not just making reference to Bayero and Sanusi Lamido. I'm also making reference to the state government, the House of Assembly, the Chieftaincy Council in Kano Emirate, because the concern of the nation is that peace must prevail.
Thank
and
you.
the Kano Emirate.
Thank you, Jide Ologun, for your thoughts, a constitutional lawyer. Very brilliant analysis there for us tonight.
Thank you. You're welcome.
The Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, has asked residents of the Makoko community to move 100 to 120 meters away from the power lines. News Central's correspondent Bettina Nweli paid a visit to the site and brings us this report. Let's take a break now. When we come back, we'll take more stories. Do stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Tonight on News Central. Before we went on our short break, we told you about a story here in Lagos that the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, has asked the residents of the Makoko community to move away about 100 to 120 meters away from power lines. There is more on that story, and Bettina Nweli brings us that report.
Often called the Venice of Africa, is a community of resilience, ingenuity, and culture, a symbol of how people adapt to adversity. But today, that resilience is being tested in ways many never imagined. This is Makoko under siege, not from rising tides, but from machines of progress. Government authorities have begun demolition homes built beneath high-tension power lines, citing public safety concerns. With sand filling ongoing and whispers of new projects beginning, for the families who live here, it is a battle for survival.
Ìjọba fún àlóṣù mẹ́ta pé òun fẹ́ lò bẹ́yìn. Mo ti pẹ́ ń bẹ̀ o, mo ti ní bí 20 ń bẹ̀yìn, mo ti wà ń bẹ̀ ti pẹ́. Mo wá mi rí bí kan tí màá jókòó sí, mo kàn fi gbà yìí fi ṣe marriage. Mo kàn ṣe marriage ń bí ni. Òun ni ẹnìkan wá yá wa nígbà yìí mo ń fi lò pẹ̀lú marriage pẹ̀lú àwọn ọmọ mi.
This is the residence of Miss Christiana since the demolition happened by the government. She says that she has been loaned this place, and this is where she sweeps every night to take her sleep with her children since the demolition happened. Currently, she is homeless. She has nowhere to rest her head, nowhere to take care of her children, and this is just the small space that she manages that someone has loaned to her. Underneath these towering power lines, generations have lived and thrived. But the government calls it a ticking time bomb, an illegal occupation of hazardous zones that endangers lives. But for residents of Makoko, safety is a distant promise compared to the immediate reality of losing their homes, their belongings, and their sense of security.
Ìjọba ní ká kó bí a dẹ̀ tí rí ibi tí a máa dúró sí gan. Wọ́n dẹ̀ ní pé títí ọ̀sẹ̀ mẹ́ta nísìn wọ́n máa wó gbogbo ibẹ̀ yẹn. Mo dẹ̀ ti kó ńbẹ̀ náà. Wọ́n ṣe marriage lọ́dọ̀ àwọn àbúrò mi. Wọ́n ní torí pé iná yẹn wọ́n fi ní pé ká kó ńbẹ̀. Àti gbébẹ̀ ní sí ó ti tó nǹkan bí 12 years.
Ibi kíní omi yẹn power line yẹn ibẹ̀ ni gbogbo wa máa ń gbé. Ilé wa wà ńbẹ̀. Ìgbà tá wa gbọ́ pé ìjọba fẹ́ wá kó wa, kí ló wá ṣẹlẹ̀ pé ìjọba wá kó wa, àmọ́ nǹkan tá a ṣe. Ìyẹn ni nǹkan tí a wá rò sí. Gbogbo wa wá jókòó sí bíbá ẹ̀. A wá ṣe mítìrì sí pé báwo la máa ṣe, àmọ́ nǹkan tá a máa ṣe. Àrí ibi tá a máa sùn sí, iná omi la máa sùn sí, iná ọkọ̀ báyìí òun la máa sùn sí.
As the dust settles over Makoko, the questions remain. How do we balance safety and progress with the rights of the people? And what happens to the many now left without a home? In Lagos, for News Central, I am Bettina Nweli.
The United States government is set to repatriate a sum of $52.88 million to Nigeria from the assets seized from the former Petroleum Minister, Diezani, Alison-Madueke, and our associates.
Of Nigeria's national wealth brazenly looted by former dictator Sani Abuja and still being repatriated nearly 30 years after he left power. The latest recovery involving former Petroleum Minister and OPEC Secretary General Diezani Alison-Madueke followed the final resolution of the civil cases on the forfeiture of the luxury assets that were laundered in and through the United States, as announced in March 2023 by the U.S. Department of Justice. The U.S. government has said Alison-Madueke and her associates purchased luxury real estate in California and New York, as well as the Galactico Star, a 66-meter super yacht using what they refer to as proceeds of those illicitly awarded contracts. Her associates in the act were Kola Aluko, a Nigerian businessman, and Jide Omokere, chairman of Atlantic Energy Drilling Concepts Nigeria Limited. Nigeria's Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, rolled out the federal government's plan for the recovered funds.
Today, the execution of the asset return agreement between the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the United States of America concretizes the repatriation of approximately $52.88 million arising from the forfeiture of the Galactica assets linked to the former Petroleum Resources Minister, Diezani, Alison-Madueke, and her associates.
The United States Ambassador to Nigeria, Richard Mills, called for the judicious use of the recovered assets for the benefits of Nigerians.
The disbursement of this nearly $53 million has been agreed upon through negotiations between our two governments. And as we heard, $50 million will be used through the World Bank to expand the electric grid in Nigeria through an existing World Bank program, to expand electrical, renewable energy through electricity in rural areas of Nigeria. And just under $3 million of this will go to the International Institute of Justice to expand regional capacity here in Nigeria, to use the justice system to fight terrorism, to strengthen transparency and counter corruption.
Like Sani Abacha and now like Diezani Alison-Madueke, there is perhaps a cautionary tale that stands in sharp contrast to a country that has gone a borrowing for far too long, supposedly for lack of funds, with Nigeria's current debt stock hovering in the neighborhood of a whopping $99.46 billion.
Welcome back. We're going to take a closer look at the recovery of the looted funds of Diezani Alison-Madueke, the former Minister of Petroleum. For more on that story, I'm now being joined from Brussels by Colin Tunweke, a global affairs analyst. Good to have you tonight.
Thank you, Thank you for having me.
Let's start with the significance of this judgment, and if you might oblige me, I was listening to the breakdown of how the money would be spent, and I noticed that the money that they will be giving back, that's the United States, will be $52.88 million, I suppose, but only $52 million will be spent. I wonder what's going to happen to the rest.
Good question, Adeshewa. Well, first and foremost, you would have to understand that although the Nigerian Attorney General, mentioned, he gave an outline of how the money is going to be spent, Nigeria didn't have a hand in, where the money, how the money is allocated, because it is part of the agreement in the sense that, it is not up to Nigeria to determine how the assets repatriated will be spent. It is up to the repatriating country, as part of the agreement, to actually determine where the money goes to in terms of the repurposing. And the essence of that is indeed to avoid re-corruption, a situation where the money comes into the country, Nigeria, and, you begin to look for where the money was put, perhaps going back again into individual pockets. So they have mentioned that indeed, like you pointed out in the report, some just under 3 million will actually be going to an international institute for justice to help in the support for fight against counter-terrorism in terms of increasing their capacity across Africa and Nigeria. And also some will be expended like 50 million on renewable energy projects.
Let me come in here quickly. Yes. Yeah. Let me come in here quickly because corruption is a big problem in Nigeria. And I was wondering what the impact of the recovery of these looted funds would be on our fight against corruption.
Well, it is significant in the sense that it does send a strong message, domestically, that if you steal from public coffers, you will be caught, and wherever the money is kept is going to be found, and the money is going to be returned back to Nigeria. Now, it also sends a strong message to the effect that in the past, about 4 decades ago, when there are legislative bottlenecks out here in the West in terms of repatriating money, and even when they were not really keen on returning stolen asset back to Nigeria, their legislations have changed. There are legal frameworks now, and the civil society organizations, their citizens, no longer want to stomach a situation where monies from developing countries are, stacked away in their country. So all of these have culminated in what is happening. So on two fronts. Front number one, domestic, it sends a strong message to potential thieves that this will not be tolerated anymore. You will be caught and the money returned. And then for the international, community, it also, actually underlines an improvement in helping to repatriate stolen funds, that they no longer will find safe haven in some of these banks out here.
Excellent points. Thank you so much, Alison-Madueke, a global affairs analyst who joined us from Brussels. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Our General Hydrocarbons Limited, GHL, they are the operators of OML 120 in the deep offshore of Nigeria. They've issued a statement addressing the ongoing concerns surrounding their oil and gas drilling operations. The company confirmed it is currently embroiled in legal proceedings with First Bank of Nigeria Limited, following a breakdown in agreements related to financing for the development of OML 120. According to GHL, the issues stem from a subrogation agreement reached at the request of FBN. This agreement was designed to help the bank manage its non-performing loans by financing the exploration and operation of OML 120, with profits shared between the two parties. However, GHL claims that FBN has since breached its obligations under both the subrogation and tripartite agreements, which led to the current challenges. Nigeria's Economic and Financial Crimes Commission says that it has arrested 4 Chinese nationals and 101 others in connection with an alleged hotel review job scam. Speaking during a press briefing in Abuja, operatives of the commission say that the suspects, comprising 67 males and 37 females, were apprehended at a business apartment in the Gudu area of the Federal Capital Territory.
The Chinese nationals that are involved are the ones that are heading this syndicate. They go around putting up placed adverts for jobs, luring innocent Nigerians to come under their employment, after which they now go ahead to give them instructions on how to initiate contact with victims around the world.
Under the Advanced Fee Fraud Act, if you own a premises or a property and allows it to be used for criminality, you can be charged under the law. but it's for the investigation to establish whether the owner of that property is an accomplice to this crime, or is aware that the property is being used for crime and encourage that activity to go on. That is something that the investigation should establish.
Still ahead tonight, 10 days to his second inauguration as the U.S. President, Donald Trump sentenced to an unconditional discharge in hush money payment case. We have details in just a moment. Do stay with us. Welcome back. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has been sentenced to an unconditional discharge in his hush money payment case. Though the ruling means the case is officially over, Trump is set to become the first convicted felon in the White House. This ruling comes just 10 days to his inauguration as the 47th President of the United States. The decision means that Trump's conviction will appear on his permanent record, but he will not face imprisonment, a fine, or probation. Trump, who previously served as president from 2017 to 2021, was found guilty in late May on 34 counts of falsifying business documents related to a $130,000 payment made to Stormy Daniels, a porn star, among other things. Trump has denied any wrongdoing. Let's take you to Stilfontein now in South Africa, where thousands of illegal miners have been trapped in a tunnel for 4 months without food or water. On Friday, reports of a letter allegedly written by one of the victims described the harrowing conditions where many of them are holed up underground. The miners claim that there are over 100 dead bodies who succumbed to starvation and dehydration. News Central's Bongani Ziba reports from Johannesburg, South Africa.
In the depth of Stilfontein mine shaft 10, 2 kilometers beneath the surface, a grim of reality persists. Over 4 months have passed since a group of miners became trapped underground, and their cries for help echo every day through the darkness.
When you speak here, please be on facts and not ignore facts that the majority of the people who are coming out, even though there are South Africans, because I don't want to lie, South Africans are involved. But the majority, overwhelming majority, are people from outside.
This statement by the Minister of Police, Senzo Mchunu, ignited heated debate among these community members who were quick to challenge the government's position that suggested that the government's assistance was not a priority because those trapped are foreigners.
All that we have emphasized again and again and again, they are Zimbabweans, they are Mozambicans. And I may very well ask, what conclusion do you draw from that? Do you draw a conclusion from that that they are less human? They are less deserving of life? What conclusion do you draw from that?
This heartbreaking letter is just one of many that have surfaced, revealing their desperate plight and fears of uncertain fate. For these families, they despair every day. They come here for news of their loved ones. The grief is palpable. Early this January, allegations surfaced that police had obstructed aid efforts, refusing water and equipment to be sent down to trapped miners. There are also reports that the very equipment intended for rescue by the volunteers was confiscated. The community was left questioning, how does help come to those trapped in such dire circumstances? These community members have also voiced their frustrations about the disparities in response times, citing a recent successful operation in Mpumalanga as a glaring contrast to the situation here.
The situation that is happening in Mpumalanga, because we saw that in Sabi, they are taking them a bit fast and the police are hands-on. But here we are not seeing that. We are not seeing that, and we are getting more dead bodies every day.
News Central recently caught up with miners who survived the ordeal underground. Their harrowing tales reveals not only the physical dangers, but also the psychological toll of isolation and fear.
I also think that we will need a counseling. It's too bad, like when you hold someone who is dead, it's not easy. Yeah, we can see underground there. It's too difficult, my sister.
As the community rallies for action, the search for answers continues. The urgency has never been greater, and the people of Stilfontein are determined not to let their voices be silenced. They cry out not just for their loved ones' rescue, but for recognition of their humanity and responsibility of the government. They demand not just answers, but action. For News Central, I am Wongani Sisiba.
Let's take a further look at this story. I'm being joined by Makoko Sebe, who is the President General Industries Workers Union of South Africa. He joins me from Gauteng. Also joining me is a community member of Northwest. His name is Zukizi. I beg your pardon, Jam. Well, he's joining from Stilfontein. Thank you so much. Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Muzukisi Jam.
Muzukizi Jam.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I know that we're discussing a very serious situation bordering a humanitarian crisis going on in Stilfontein. Muzukizi, I hear you have a relative trapped down there. What's the latest?
No, I don't really have a relative trapped down there, but by virtue of being Sanko, a Sanko member, those people that are trapped down there remain our responsibility, because we're a civic organization or civic movement which represents the entire community.
And so the latest on this story is that the High Court has ordered the rescue of the miners. What can you tell us about that?
Thank you very much. There has been a number of court orders which have been compelling the state to make sure that there is some sort of an intervention in so far as extraction of these illegal miners is concerned. There is one recently which again compels the state to start with the rescue operation immediately. But we are not really holding our breaths. We are hopeful that perhaps this time they will comply with the court order, because they have contravened a number of these court orders. Like not so long ago, there was a court order which again was saying we must be allowed to take food down there, and also food and water. They contravened that when they destroyed the infrastructure, which was making it possible for us to take food.
Right, let me bring Makoko into these right now. We know illegal mining is a big problem across South Africa, and as well as we see mining accidents happening often. What can you tell us about that? What's driving it, and what's the government trying to do to stop it?
But I think we need to start where this conversation is going to start. What is unfolding in Stilfontein is not a government operation to stop illegal mining. What we are seeing there is simply a Stilfontein massacre. And I think we must call it what it is. A wanton killing of hundreds of miners who are forced into this hazardous labor by conditions of desperation created by a flagrant disregard for the laws and, of course, for the regulatory framework by the big corporations that have monopolized the ownership and the operation of the mining industry in this country as they have across the economy. I mean, you look at the owners of these particular mines, their directors, all of them, are facing criminal charges and court cases. But they are not alone. The reality is that when people are talking about illegality in mining, they are talking about poor people exclusively. Illegality is a conduct.
Right.
Anybody who contravenes the conditions of the license or mine outside the framework of the law is committing illegal mining. And that is actually committed on industrial scale by the big mining operations in this country.
Madueke, this is definitely a conversation we cannot stop having. We have been covering this story on News Central for months now. We'll keep an eye on it, especially with the new ruling from the High Court. I know you're both not very optimistic the government is going to do anything, but we'll definitely keep an eye on it. Thank you both for joining me tonight. Madueke Sabai, the President General Industries Workers Union of South Africa from Gauteng, and you too, Muzukizi Jam from Stilfontein. Stay safe, both of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go on a short break now. When we come back, we'll talk some money. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's time for some business news with Perpetual. Perpetual, I hear non-permanent residents in Nigeria can now open a bank account. How will that work?
Well, that's quite interesting. We have two accounts. There is the ordinary account and investment account, and that's for non-resident Nigerians. That's Nigerians that are not based here in Nigeria. So, I mean, it's a win-win both for them and for the country, because on the one hand, they will have more opportunities and access to investment opportunities here in Nigeria. And on the other hand, that is also going to help contribute to socio-economic development in the country, because the more you're able to capture these foreign currencies, the less pressure we have on the naira. That means we have more foreign currency to attend to some needs. But of course, I'll tell you more after this time out.
Business news in association with Money Master PSB, the easy way to master your money.
Nigeria's 2025 proposed national budget has drawn criticism for omitting key allocations, including funding for the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road and detailed budgets for several MDAs, commissions and councils, such as the National Judicial Council and TED Fund. This was contained in a statement released by Budget on its X platform on Friday. Additionally, the civil society organization stated that budgets for over 60 government-owned enterprises, including the Nigeria Ports Authority, Nigeria Customs Service, and IMASA, are missing. It also pointed out that President Tinubu's announced retirement benefits for military generals, bulletproof SUVs, foreign medical trips, and hefty escorts contradict his earlier promises to cut governance costs, risks inflating the fiscal deficit, and may demoralize lower-ranking military personnel who face inadequate retirement benefits and health insurance. And more from Nigeria. The Central Bank of Nigeria has introduced two new accounts for Nigerians living abroad: the non-resident Nigerian ordinary account and the non-resident Nigerian investment account for Nigerians in the diaspora. The NRNOA facilitates remittances and fund management in foreign and local currencies, while the NRNIA allows investments in Nigerian assets, including diaspora bonds and other debt instruments. Aimed at improving diasporans' access to economic opportunities in the country, the accounts will also simplify fund management and reduce reliance on third parties for local transactions. Eligible Nigerians in the diaspora can open these accounts starting January 1, 2025, subject to meeting KYC requirements. The CBN had previously announced plans to launch a non-resident bank verification number in December 2024 to streamline KYC processes for diaspora banking. And now to East Africa. Ethiopia inaugurated the Ethiopian Securities Exchange on Friday, marking a pivotal step in Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's economic liberalization agenda. The exchange launched with Welgren Bank as its sole listing, but aims to host 90 companies within a decade. State-owned Ethio Telecom, preparing for an IPO, is expected to join. This development restores a securities exchange abolished in 1974 under a socialist regime. Ethiopia, Africa's second most populous nation, has experienced rapid growth but faced challenges from internal conflict and skepticism about its liberalization commitment. While foreign interest remains tepid, local investors view the ESX as a breakthrough, offering stakeholders equity in Ethiopia's leading firms. And that's business news tonight. I am Perpetua Fasamipita. The news continues shortly.
Business News in association with Money Master PSB, the easy way to master your money.
Welcome back. It's time for some sports news with Tunde from our sports desk. Interesting developments in chess, Tunde. Your namesake, Tunde Onokoya, the celebrity chess master, challenged the vice president of Nigeria's Chess Federation, and it ended in a draw?
Yeah, it's a Tunde thing. Tunde Onokoya doing everyone proud once again, playing a really great game of chess. We'll have all that and much more of this.
Sports Update, brought to you by Kano Oil. Kano Oil, we go the extra mile.
Hello and welcome to Sports, the highly anticipated cage match between the founder of Chess in Slums Africa, Tunde Onokoya, and the vice president of the Nigeria Chess Federation, Adeyinka Adewale, ended in a dramatic 10-all draw after 20 intense rounds in Lagos. In a heartwarming gesture after that match, both players donated the entire 1 million naira prize money to 17-year-old Tersi Ferdinand, Nigeria's youngest national chess champion, further emphasizing the charity-driven purpose for the event. For Onokoya, the match highlighted the transformative power of chess.
Played extremely well, and I remember the last 3 games, I was 3 games up, so I just needed a draw to win, but he ended up winning the last 3 games, and it was tough. I think the psychology was, the psychological factor was sometimes when you try too hard to want to win, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. So if I had just kept, the same like emotional pace from the beginning, just being more relaxed, I would have probably won. But I mean, regardless, he's an equally strong player, so I think it's fair that it's even.
That I train, so if your prodigy beats you, it's not a bad thing, so.
And Africa's second highest ranked table tennis player, Aruna Quadri, has reached his first WTT Star Contender semi-final since 2022, following a 3-1 victory over South Korea's Park Gang-yong. Now, Aruna had earlier displayed his incredible resilience, coming back from 2 games down to defeat Spain's Alvaro Robles 3-2 in the round of 16. Before that, he had served warning to the rest of the competition by beating British champion Liam Pitchford by 3-1. Now, Aruna's semi-final appearance in Doha marks a significant milestone in his career and further cements his position as one of Africa's top table tennis players. He will now face world number 3, Tomokazu Harimoto of Japan, for a chance to qualify for a historic final. And that's all we have on sports.
Sports Update, brought to you by Kano Oil. Kano Oil, we go the extra mile.
Our entertainment reporter Edewa joins me for some juicy celebrity gossip. Rahim Okoya, son of the multi-dollar businessman Razak Okoya, is under fire for disrespecting the Naira. I hear this without consequences.
Without consequences.
Yet.
And everyone, we're wondering, what's going on? No, without consequences yet. I like that.
Yeah.
But because we've seen some update, and I'll definitely be giving that shortly so that people just stay glued. Let's have this conversation real quick.
All right. Okay. Oh, it looks like we're not going on break after all.
So let me just go.
Entertainment news in association with Glow Unlimited.
Well, what can I say? Well, so let's jump right into the conversation. Well, Raheem Okoya is under fire, like was said earlier. And why? Because a viral video went out on social media showing him, spraying money, abusing the naira. And the very controversial part about this conversation is that he wasn't the only one in the video. His brother was there as well, and a police officer was standing right there as well. Now, social media went crazy, seeing the fact that the police released a statement to say that they had detained the police officer for being there and he's under scrutiny. And Nigerians are like, wait, hold up. Is this not the same reason why Bobrisky went to prison? Mm-hmm. Is this not the same reason why Cubana chief priest paid like 10 million naira fine? So why is the police officer taking the fall for Okoya's son? So he came out to put an apology statement saying that, he didn't know the implication of his actions. He didn't know the legal...
He did not know?
Well, he said he didn't know the extent.
Okay.
And, well, right now, people are saying, okay, is that a reason to say he's off the hook? Really?
This story has not even started, I think, because there's a lot of questions begging to be answered.
Yes. We're hoping that very soon the police will come out with another statement. We need to see what happens to him because he was the one, with the naira at the time. But that's most of the entertainment conversations we can take right now. That's all on entertainment news.
Well, that's a wrap tonight. Thank you for watching. You can keep watching News Central on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, AVO TV, and on YouTube. Thanks a lot for watching. I am Adeshawa Josh, and I will see you around.